Hello, this is Erica Norton, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She and her team are out in the Worcester area, and she owns a law firm that specializes in family and real estate matters. And today we're talking about a really interesting family court matter. We are talking about separations and divorces within same-sex couples. So get the whiteboard out. Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So, with same-sex separations and divorces when children are concerned, is there a priority over, one member of the couple over the other if they actually gave birth? I mean, I know with like couples, man and woman couples, a woman gives birth, usually it doesn't matter. I would hope it doesn't matter.
And generally, you're right. It doesn't matter with a heterosexual couple, and a lot of lesbians absolutely say, "Well, I gave birth. I'm the one that's in charge," and that's not the case because we're still going to treat you equal. Your names are both on the birth certificate, and we're not going to start with the premise of, "Well, I gave birth." Now, that being said, the person that gave birth generally has more of an attachment to the child. So maybe that would be your argument. But we're going to start with on paper, you're both parents, you're equal in the eyes of the law. And then you have to tell me why it should be different.
I mean, that sounds really complicated because if you even hear from people who have adopted children that they even a little bit late, they're not even babies, and you get very, very attached. Heck, don't take any of my dogs away. I'm like, I mean, I get attached very easily to things that I love and that love me. So I can't imagine how complicated. How do you even begin to sort this out?
It's going to be almost similar to a heterosexual couple, which is what does that parenting schedule look like? What does that parent do for that child? Again, a parent is a parent. So what does that look like? Are they the ones that are working all the time and I get to see my child for 2 hours and that's it and I'm out the door? Or am I actively participating in their school activities? Am I going to the parent teacher conferences? Am I going to the doctor's appointments? Am I making sure that things are taken care of, whatever that child needs, both financially and emotionally? Am I there for that child and I'm going, "Hey, Sally, let's have a chat. Like, let's have this conversation. Are you bonded that, if that child wasn't seeing you every day, would that child be crying?" So again, we're going to go back to what's in the best interest of the child, and it's all the same factors that we're going to be looking at as a heterosexual couple as well. And people don't want to focus on that. They want to focus on, well, I'm the one in charge. I'm the one that does all of this. Well, you can say it, but we're going to see it, what your actions actually look like.
Yeah, and with heterosexual couples, that doesn't always matter anyway. So, uh, I heard you say something about the birth certificate. Is that the key to all of this? If you are listed as one of the parents on the birth certificate, then you would most likely get equal rights, whether you had the child, gave birth to the child or not.
Well, the law in Massachusetts is the same, and we finally caught up with the 21st century. Thank you. Where we actually go. Are you married? Yes. Oh, who are you married to? Stacy. Okay. And they'll ask the question of, is it a male or female? But obviously, if it's a female and I'm giving birth and my partner is right here, they're going to put a line item. For the last 100 years, really, it's always been mother, father. We've actually grown up now, and we have a column that says other parent. So we could have mother and mother too. So we've actually evolved a lot, and thank you very much for that. But your name will be on the birth certificate, so any married couple is going to have their spouse automatically listed on the birth certificate. The question is when you go, okay, but my husband isn't the father. And then that's where it gets a little more complicated. For whatever reason, extramarital affair, in vitro, whatever that case may be, that's when it gets more complicated, but they're automatically going to go, spouse needs to go on it unless somebody signs an acknowledgement of non paternity.
Yeah, I mean, and that's tricky. I'm just wondering what would happen in those cases with a same-sex couple if they're, I mean, there are bisexual people out there. They could have gone out and gotten pregnant the old-fashioned way, and now they're married to a woman who could be on the hook for child support if they're about to break up if they don't prove that paternity.
Absolutely. And that's definitely where it gets complicated because we do need the spouse to sign off saying that they are not, or we need the sperm donor, and I'm saying that only for purposes of this conversation, but we need that person to say, I am the father. So we have those situations where we're going to have to go to that other person, whoever that is, and see if they will sign off on it. And if they don't, then again, the presumption is that the spouse is going to be on it. So really, we have a short window to either go into court to address it or to have the party sign off on it. Ultimately, there are cases where it's not listed, but it's few and far between. So you're going to have somebody listed, so you want to make sure it's the right person. Because if it's not, then when we go into court, I have to get something that says this person is not the parent.
Now, this is another interesting question. I say, if I do say so myself. What about gay men? I mean, obviously, nobody is giving birth in this situation, unless they're transgendered, I guess. And that's probably a whole nother topic. But what happens if, they have a surrogate and, now this is their child? Do their names go on the birth certificate? And, what happens when they separate or divorce?
That's a great question. The reality is, we're going to look at what happens. If it's a surrogate, we're going to have a surrogacy agreement, most likely. And then at the time of birth, according to that contract, they're going to be placed on the birth certificate as father and father too. Again, we already talked about that language change. So certainly that is something that's going to come up. And again, the court is going to look at who's the primary parent, what's in the best interest of the child when they separate. So they're going to go through the exact same factors, not treating it any differently. And, there is always one parent. And I think this is regardless of any sexual orientation, you're just going to have one parent that generally is more attached to the child and vice versa. It happens. There's always one person that's more caring, loving, and again, I'm not saying nobody isn't, but that gives that extra little bit of attention to the child, and the child is extra bonded to that parent, and that's what the court is going to look at. So it certainly depends on what's going on. The real question is when you have somebody that either has a surrogacy or they had intercourse with a female who got pregnant, and the person said, I don't want this child. The father took over. Now you're in a gay marriage. Does your spouse then become the father? And the answer is, well, if we go through the adoption process and the termination rights.
So it's really all about paperwork, and it's also about the child and what they are more comfortable with. What's the status quo? I mean, that's a lot of times what they look at when they are coming up with visitation and, and then child support and, and on all of the different rights that you have to go through. They're going to go through in this process. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that we all have to look at. And a lot of times you'll have one of the parents that are like, well, no, this child's mine. And then they say that, my child. Whether it's because I gave birth to the child or, again, whatever that sperm situation is. That's really what it comes down to. So they will get very adamant that because of this situation, they have priority. And the reality is they don't, because again, the court is going to look at what's in the best interest. Sometimes that is absolutely not in the best interest of the parent or the child based off of the circumstances. So that's what we're going to look at.
I guess another question I have for you is how often are you seeing this now in your office?
Well, obviously, it depends on when same sex couples are getting divorced or getting separated. So you have to have that, obviously, as a prerequisite. But I think, the reality is probably one in every 4 to 5 really are fighting for it and are really either digging their heels and saying, I'm the birth parent, or I, have a different position and I have more rights. So I think that's really where it's coming into play. So unfortunately, it is a good chunk of people that are walking through the office that are having those circumstances and alleging that they have seniority and they don't.
I mean, it sounds so similar to heterosexual couples. Honestly, it doesn't really seem different at all.
It doesn't. And then that's what the law should be. Is we're treating everyone equal, and we actually are treating everyone equal. It's just that again, people seem to have that entitlement, if you will.
Yeah, well, I bet if you just close your eyes and you're talking to these people, you wouldn't be able to tell, whether they were hetero or gay and or lesbian. It would just be the same arguments, the same ferocity and fighting for what they want. It just everything seems the same, and I guess that is your equal rights that you're looking for. You can all be equally miserable now. It's great.
Yeah, and I think the reality is it's just nice to know that you are on equal footing, because there's always that one parent that does come in that didn't give birth and go, I don't know what my rights are. Like, am I going to lose my child? Like, I'm really scared. And they're genuinely terrified of the situation. And then again, we have to go back to what does that look like? Because again, when you do close your eyes, they're the exact same scenario, and the judge is going to treat it the same. So we start with that premise, which is always a great premise to start with, and then tell me why it should be different.
I mean, this has been very informative, very interesting. Same-sex couples out there need to beware that they are now going to have to deal with all the same terrible situations that we have to deal with when we're going through a breakup with children, and figure all that out. So, any of your videos on any of our family topics would really be for everyone, heterosexual and same-sex couples. You're all going to have to go through separating all of your stuff, figuring out child support, figuring out visitation, figuring out health care for everyone. There's so much. And I guess the last thing I would say is no matter who you are or what kind of couple you are, you should definitely call Nicole and her team if you're in the Worcester area, because if you're not in court every day watching these family court hearings, you're not going to know anything about what might happen next. And so, what you get with Nicole and her team are, strategies, and you get foresight in the order of things, and how things need to go, and what to expect when you're going through a breakup. And it's incredibly helpful. And if something seems unreasonable, they're going to tell you. And that's one of the things I like the most. If I'm going to fight over that lawnmower and it's going to cost me $30,000 to fight over a $5,000 lawnmower, they're going to tell you you're crazy. Let's just give them the stupid lawnmower, you know? And oftentimes custody is, you could spend $150,000 on a custody battle. So, really, do you care if it's 50% or 60%? It's very reasonable when you work with Nicole and her team. And I think that's great because most of us that go through a breakup are feeling very unreasonable and uneducated on how things work. So thank you so much, Nicole, for again, just being so kind and generous with your time and sharing your information on these topics. I know it makes everyone feel so much better, kind of hearing about, what goes on, what's going to happen, and, what are some of the options that you have when you're going through these very difficult times.
Absolutely. I do this because I hope it helps people. And I think the reality is I always do worst case scenario. I hope that nobody's in that worst case scenario, but that's what we're here for. If you are there, we can help you. If it's minor, guess what? We can help you as well.
Yes, it's fantastic. Thank you everyone for watching, and thanks again for coming on the show today, Nicole. We appreciate having you every week.